The first time Lyra Soren asked me to marry her, I was standing beneath a sky full of execution drones. Blood had dried along my jaw. Half of my survival suit had melted against my ribs, and the last functioning display on my wrist kept flashing a victory score no one believed I had earned. Above the arena, my name burned across a screen large enough to be seen from orbit. Ellie Vane. Final rank, 1. Then the cheers stopped. Director Cassian Vex appeared on every projection tower surrounding the platform. He wore the same immaculate white uniform he had worn when he welcomed us to Nox 30 days earlier, as if thousands of dead creatures, 17 injured contestants, and 1 attempted massacre had not left a stain on him. Before the winner of Last Horizon receives his reward, Cassian announced, the network must address evidence of unprecedented fraud. The victory platform locked around my boots. Steel restraints snapped over my ankles before I could move. Across the arena, spectators rose from their seats. Billions more watched through the galactic broadcast. A moment ago, they had been chanting my name. Now the first accusation appeared on the public feed. Cheater. It multiplied until the word covered the sky. Cassian raised one hand, and footage began playing behind him. It showed me avoiding an underground tunnel seconds before it collapsed. It showed me finding water beneath a field every sensor had declared dry. It showed me moving my team away from the northern ridge 2 minutes before an electromagnetic storm erased everything standing there. Then the screen changed. Lyra appeared. Not Lyra Soren, heiress of the Soren Dominion and commander of the strongest private fleet in the galaxy. This was Lynn, the quiet silver-haired contestant who had entered Last Horizon with false credentials, a plain black survival suit, and a knife she had pressed against my throat the first time I touched her. The footage had been recorded before the opening trial. She stood alone in a maintenance corridor while I blocked her path. If you enter Predator Canyon tomorrow, the version of me on the screen said, you'll die at 19 minutes past the second siren. Lynn's expression never changed. And how? She asked. Would a stranger know when I am going to die? The recording ended. For one breath, the entire arena was silent. Cassian looked down at me from the screens. Eli Vane did not survive through skill. He possessed advanced knowledge of classified trials, concealed that knowledge, manipulated other contestants, and engineered disasters to make himself appear heroic. That's a lie, I said. My microphone had already been disabled. No one heard me, Cassian continued. More seriously, we have reason to believe he infiltrated the competition with the intention of abducting a member of the Soren family. The audience erupted. New words flooded the feed. Stalker. Terrorist. Execute him. 6 security officers climbed onto the platform. Their rifles unfolded as they approached me. I searched the edge of the arena for Lyra. She had disappeared 3 minutes before the final rankings were announced. That frightened me more than the rifles. I had known almost everything that would happen on Nox 9. I knew the locations of the hidden shelters, the order of the trials, the betrayals that had been written into the story, and the identities of the contestants who were supposed to reach the final day. But the original novel had ended Lyra's life on the 3rd day. Nothing she had done after that belonged to the future, I remembered. The lead officer stopped in front of me. Eli Vane, by authority of the Interstellar Broadcast Tribunal, you are under arrest. The restraints around my ankles tightened. I looked up at Cassian's smiling face. You're arresting the wrong person. This time my voice echoed through the arena. Someone had restored my microphone. Cassian's smile vanished. A shadow covered the platform. At first, I thought one of the projection towers had fallen. Then the clouds split apart, revealing the black hull of a Soren dreadnought descending directly above the arena. Every execution drone lost power at once. They dropped from the sky like metal rain. The dreadnought stopped 20 meters above us. A narrow bridge of blue light extended from its open bay to the victory platform. Lyra walked down it alone. She was no longer wearing the battered black suit that had hidden her identity for 30 days. A silver military coat fell from her shoulders, marked at the collar with the crest of 9 stars. Her hair, usually tied behind her head, moved freely in the artificial wind. The entire arena recognized her before Cassian could cut the broadcast. Lady Lyra Soren, the only daughter of the richest dynasty beyond the core worlds. The woman whose gravitational ability had destroyed a pirate fleet when she was 19. The woman who, according to the novel I had read, should have been buried beneath Predator Canyon 27 days ago. Every officer on the platform lowered his weapon. Lyra did not look at them. She looked at me. Then she noticed the blood on my mouth, and something cold entered her eyes. Release him, she said. Cassian recovered quickly. Lady Soren, this contestant is accused of acquiring restricted information about you. For your own protection, release him. The restraints opened. I stepped forward, but my injured leg gave way. Lyra crossed the space between us and caught me around the waist. Her hand pressed against the burned section of my suit. Pain shot through my side. I tried not to react. She felt it anyway. Her fingers tightened. The audience feed exploded with questions, but Lyra spoke quietly enough that only I could hear. You said the final attack would come from below. It was supposed to. You were wrong, I noticed. Her gaze searched my face. Beneath her calm expression, I saw the fear she would never allow the cameras to capture. Not fear for herself, fear that she had arrived too late. Cassian's image returned above us. Lady Soren, if Mr. Vane has coerced you, the tribunal can provide. Lyra turned toward the screens. No one coerced me. Then your relationship with the accused is relevant to this investigation. It is. That answer made me look at her. Lyra reached into her coat and removed a thin silver ring. I recognized it immediately. Every reader of Starfall Air would have recognized it. The ring carried the legal authority of the Soren bloodline. Giving it to another person meant sharing diplomatic immunity, military protection, and a claim to the largest private fortune in human space. In the novel, Lyra had died wearing it. She took my left hand. "What are you doing?" I whispered. "Keeping you alive. Lyra, trust me once more." That sentence has never ended well for me. For the smallest instant, pain crossed her face. Then she slid the ring onto my finger. The arena went silent again. Lyra lifted her head and addressed the cameras. "Eli Vane cannot be detained by this network. As of this moment, he is under the direct protection of House Soren." Cassian's expression hardened. "Your protection does not override a tribunal warrant." "No," she said, "but a formal union does." My heart stopped. Lyra's hand remained around mine. "Eli Vane is the man I have chosen to marry." The public feed became a wall of light. No one in the arena moved. Even Cassian seemed unable to decide whether he had heard her correctly. I stared at the side of Lyra's face. 27 days earlier, she had threatened to break my wrist for touching her. 12 days earlier, she had kissed me in a sealed chamber and spent the next 6 hours insisting it had meant nothing. 3 days earlier, she had told me she would rather destroy her inheritance than let her family decide whom she could love. Now she had claimed we were engaged before the entire galaxy. Lyra turned toward me and placed one palm flat against my chest. To the audience, the gesture looked intimate. In reality, her fingers were measuring my unstable heartbeat. "Smile," she murmured. "You could have warned me. You would have refused. I can still refuse. If they learn this is false, Cassian will have you executed before my fleet receives authorization to intervene. So, this is another survival strategy?" Her eyes lifted to mine. Our faces were close enough that I felt her breath against my lips. "That depends," she said. "Do you intend to survive me?" Before I could answer, Cassian laughed. The sound rolled across the arena from 100 speakers. A moving performance. Unfortunately, Lady Soren has omitted one detail. The screen behind him changed again. This time it displayed a medical compatibility contract bearing Lyra's signature. My name appeared at the center. Date of registration. 6 months before last horizon. 6 months before I entered this world. 6 months before Lyra and I had supposedly met. Cassian magnified the final clause. Candidate Ellie Vane is approved for forced neural bonding in the event of Heiress instability. The audience turned from outrage to hysteria. I looked at Lyra. She had gone completely still. "You knew my name," I said. "Eli. Before the show. Before I saved you. Before any of this, you knew who I was." Her hand left my chest. For the first time since she had descended from the dreadnought, Lyra looked uncertain. Cassian leaned toward the camera. "Tell him, Lady Soren. Tell your chosen fiancé why his body was purchased before he ever met you." Lyra stepped closer to me. "Not here. That contract says forced bonding. It is not what you think. You don't know what I think. I know you are about to walk away." The terrible thing was that she sounded frightened. The woman who could crush the arena into a metal sphere was afraid I might take one step back. So I did. Her fingers closed around empty air. Cassian smiled above us, and I finally understood that winning Last Horizon had never been the trap. Lyra was. 31 days earlier, I had died in a room no one entered until morning. There was nothing dramatic about it. No speeding vehicle, no assassin, no heroic final act. I had spent 18 hours working, ignored the pain spreading through my chest, and collapsed beside a half-eaten container of noodles. My final coherent thought had not been about family or regret. It had been irritation that I would never finish the terrible novel open on my tablet. Starfall Air had consumed 3 weeks of my life despite having an arrogant protagonist, a nonsensical survival tournament, and enough political conspiracies to populate 5 galaxies. I kept reading for one reason. Lyra Soren. She had appeared for 11 chapters. Born with the ability to distort gravity, Lyra had been treated as both a weapon and a future womb by her dynasty. She entered Last Horizon under a false identity, hoping to earn a military command without using her family's name. On the 3rd day, the original protagonist, Orion Cade, chose tournament points over rescuing her. Lyra died alone beneath Predator Canyon. Her death motivated Orion. Her fortune funded his rise. Her killer joined his alliance 60 chapters later. I hated every part of it. Then I opened my eyes inside a transport ship and discovered I had become Eli Vane, an insignificant contestant whose death occupied 2 sentences in Chapter 9. Eli had no famous bloodline, no combat implant, and no meaningful relationship with the original cast. He entered Last Horizon because his foster home owed money to the network. During the first trial, he panicked, stole another contestant's oxygen cell, and was thrown out of a shelter. He died in an electrical storm on the 2nd night. When I woke in his body, the transport was 12 minutes from Nox 9. A registration band identified me. Ellie Vane. Age 21. Deb-sponsored contestant. Survival rating, D. Around me, 99 contestants prepared for the most watched competition in the galaxy. At the opposite end of the cabin, Orion Cade laughed with 3 military recruits. He looked exactly as the novel described him. Tall, bronze-skinned, dark red hair. and the relaxed confidence of a man who believed every room had been built for his entrance. Near the rear hatch, a thin young woman with cropped brown hair was dismantling her wrist scanner. Mina Rook, the mechanic who would finish 7th, and later discover that the network had falsified several deaths. And beside the window sat a silver-haired woman dressed in black. Lyra. She wore a suppression cuff around her left wrist, and kept her face angled away from the cabin cameras. No one else paid attention to her. In the original story, she had remained almost invisible until her death. I stared too long. Her eyes met mine through the reflection in the glass, cold, pale, measuring. She touched 2 fingers to her left wrist. That tiny movement confirmed her identity. It also warned me her power was becoming unstable. I knew exactly when she would die. I knew where. I knew who would trigger the collapse. I also knew that approaching her without an explanation would make me look insane. A light above the hatch turned red. Contestants, Cassian's voice announced through the cabin, "Welcome to Last Horizon." The wall screens activated, displaying the black forests and crimson deserts of Nox 9. You will remain on the planet for 30 days. Food, shelter, weapons, and medical supplies must be earned. Each trial will reward survival points. The top 10 contestants will receive citizenship, credits, and contracts with the leading houses of the galaxy. The screen changed to show a gold ranking badge. Abandonment is permitted at any time. Activate your extraction beacon, and you will be safely removed from the competition. That was the first lie. On day 2, the network would disable extraction during the electromagnetic storm to increase audience engagement. Eli Vane would press his beacon 23 times before dying. I looked down at the device attached to my chest. This time, I would not be there when the storm arrived. The transport doors opened. Wind rushed through the cabin, carrying the smell of iron and rain. Below us stretched the ash forest, where the first trial would begin. Cassian's voice became brighter. Your opening objective is simple. Reach one of the 20 shelters before nightfall. The contestants surged toward the exits. I stayed seated. In the novel, the nearest shelters were decoys. At sunset, territorial predators emerged from nests beneath them. The safest location was an abandoned weather station 6 kilometers west, but Orion would not discover it until the second trial. I could reach it first. I could gather supplies, avoid the storm, and survive without involving myself in the main story. That had been my plan for almost 4 minutes. Then Lyra rose from her seat. On her way to the hatch, her suppression cuff flashed red. A fracture already ran along its inner seal. The cuff was supposed to last 3 days. Cassian's people had sabotaged it before landing. That had not happened in the novel. The future was changing before I had done anything. Lyra passed me without a glance. I stood and followed her. She noticed after 20 steps. We had landed on a stone ridge above the forest. Contestants scattered between the trees, while camera drones followed overhead. Lyra entered a narrow path leading north. I caught up. You should go west, I said. She kept walking. You should stop following me. The northern shelters aren't safe. Then I am fortunate I did not ask for your guidance. Your cuff is damaged. Lyra stopped. I felt the air grow heavier. Loose stones rose from the ground around her boots. She turned slowly. What cuff? The one suppressing enough gravitational force to fold this ridge in half. She moved faster than I expected. One moment, she stood 2 meters away. The next, my back struck a tree, and a black blade rested beneath my jaw. The camera drones rotated toward us. Lyra smiled for them. It was a beautiful, empty expression. Choose your next sentence carefully. If you kill me on camera, your disguise won't last an hour. What disguise? Lynn Ardent, mining orphan from Callisto Station. I lowered my voice. You should have changed your dominant hand. Lyra Soren trained with her right. You keep reaching for weapons with your left because the cuff restricts your balance. The smile disappeared. Pressure closed around my throat without her blade moving. How do you know my name? I know more than your name. Who sent you? No one. The pressure increased. Black spots appeared at the edge of my vision. I had imagined this conversation several times while reading the novel. In none of those versions had I accounted for how terrifying Lyra would be from 10 centimeters away. Her eyes were not simply silver. Thin rings of blue light moved inside them whenever her ability activated. You have 8 seconds, she said. Tomorrow you'll enter Predator Canyon. 7. A contestant named Dax will trigger an explosive charge beneath the eastern wall. 6. The canyon will collapse at 19 minutes past the second siren. 5. You will hold the rocks long enough for 12 contestants to escape. 4. Orion Cade will choose the ranking beacon instead of coming back for you. Her expression changed. Only slightly, but I saw it. She knew Orion. In the original novel, their families had discussed a political union. Lyra despised him before the show, though Orion believed winning beside her would change that. 3, she said. You'll die beneath the northern arch. 2. Your final transmission will never reach your mother. The pressure vanished. I pulled air into my lungs. Lyra's knife remained against my throat, but the hand holding it trembled once. The transmission was the detail no spy should have known. Lyra had recorded a message before entering Last Horizon. In the novel, Cassian deleted it after her death. She leaned closer. Her voice lost its theatrical calm. What did you do to my mother? Nothing. How do you know about the transmission? I can't explain it in front of the cameras. She glanced at the drones. Then she caught the front of my suit and dragged me against her, as if beginning a fight. Her mouth stopped beside my ear. To the drones, it will look like I am threatening you, she whispered. You are threatening me. Walk toward the western ravine. Do not look back. If you run, I will break both legs. What happens at the ravine? You explain everything. I can't. Her grip tightened. Then the ravine will become your grave. She released me hard enough that I stumbled. I walked west. Lyra followed at a distance. My attempt to avoid the main story had lasted less than 5 minutes. The western ravine contained an old survey tunnel that blocked the drone's signals. I had intended to use it as a shortcut to the weather station. Lyra entered behind me and crushed the tunnel camera before it could turn toward her. Blue light vanished from its lens. She removed her suppression cuff. The metal beneath it had burned a dark line around her skin. Talk. I know the trials. That is not an explanation. I know which shelters are trapped. I know where the storms will form. I know Dax carries explosives in his medical case. And I know Cassian disabled 3 extraction towers before we landed. Lyra watched me without blinking. How? If I answer honestly, you'll think I'm insane. I already think you are a stalker with classified intelligence. Insanity might improve your position. I almost laughed. She did not. I read about this place, I said. In what? A story. Her silence was worse than disbelief. In my world, Nox 9 was part of a novel. You were a character in it. So was I. Lyra stared at me for several seconds. Then she put her cuff back on. I was right. Insanity did not improve your position. I know how that sounds. You claim my life is entertainment in another universe. I'm not asking you to believe all of it. Believe the information I can prove. What happens next? In 43 minutes, the network announces a bonus beacon near the first shelter. Everyone in this sector will move east. 9 minutes later, glasswing predators rise beneath the shelter. You expect me to wait 43 minutes to test your delusion? No. There's a supply capsule buried beneath this tunnel. Her eyes narrowed. I crossed to the left wall and counted 6 rusted support plates. Behind the 6th was a maintenance latch Orion would discover on day 7. I pulled it. Nothing happened. Lyra folded her arms. Impressive. It's supposed to open. Perhaps the fictional version was better maintained. I pressed the latch again. The wall remained closed. Heat crawled up my neck. This was impossible. The capsule contained medical gel, water filters, and a pulse pistol. Orion had used it to defeat the marsh beast in chapter 21. Lyra stepped beside me. Her shoulder brushed mine as she examined the plate. This hinge was welded recently, she said. Someone sealed it. Cassian, you blame the director because your prophecy failed? I blame him because that weld is less than a week old. She ran one finger over the metal. Then the bonus announcement sounded through our wristbands. Contestants in Sector 4, Cassian said. A 200-point beacon has been activated at Shelter 12. Lyra looked at her display. I checked the time. Exactly 43 minutes. Outside the tunnel, footsteps and excited voices moved east. Lyra's gaze returned to me. One prediction does not make you trustworthy. Wait 9 minutes. We stood in silence. The tunnel was narrow enough that I remained aware of every small movement she made. She kept one hand near her knife. I kept both of mine visible. After 7 minutes, a contestant screamed in the distance. At 9, the ground shook. Wings struck the air in a deafening swarm. The public channel filled with cries for help. Lyra closed her eyes briefly. When she opened them, the hostility had not disappeared. It had changed direction. Can they survive? Most of them. The predators avoid fire. She activated the emergency channel and transmitted the information without identifying herself. Within a minute, orange light flickered between the trees. The screams diminished. Lyra faced me. You knew. Yes. And you intended to keep that information for yourself? I intended to stay alive. 12 people could have died. In the original story, 3 did. She stepped closer. To you? Has this already happened? Not exactly. Did you watch me die? The directness of the question took the air from my lungs. I read it. That is not what I asked. I remembered Lyra beneath the canyon, holding thousands of tons of stone above 12 strangers. I remembered her sending a final message no one would receive. In my old world, she had been words on a screen. Standing before her, I could no longer pretend that distinction mattered. Yes, I said. I watched you die. Her eyes moved across my face as if searching for satisfaction and finding something else. What did I say at the end? I hesitated. Tell me. You apologized to your mother for becoming exactly what your family wanted. Lyra's breath caught. No one should have known that fear. She looked away first. The ground trembled again, closer this time. We need to move, I said. The swarm will spread west. Where? The weather station. Is that where the protagonist goes? I stared at her. A faint, humorless smile touched her mouth. If I accept your absurd explanation, I also accept the vocabulary. Who is the protagonist? Orion. Of course he is. You don't sound surprised. Orion has believed himself the center of the galaxy since we were 12. Despite everything, I laughed. Lyra looked at me as though the sound had caught her off guard. Then the tunnel ceiling cracked. She seized my wrist. Gravity shifted. Instead of falling, the stone fragments curved around us and struck the walls. Pain flashed across her face. The damaged cuff sparked. I caught her left wrist with my free hand. The air compressed. Release me, she said. Your pulse is too fast. You are touching the source of an unstable gravitational field. I noticed. If my control breaks, it will tear your arm off. Then breathe with me, Eli. It was the first time she used my name. 4 seconds in, I said. Hold for 2. 4 seconds out. The tunnel groaned around us. Lyra's power pressed against my bones. I placed her palm against the center of my chest so she could feel my breathing. Her eyes widened. Follow the rhythm. I do not need. The ceiling split again. Her fingers curled into my suit. I breathed slowly. After 3 cycles, the floating stones dropped. The crushing pressure disappeared. Lyra remained against me. Her palm rested over my heartbeat. My fingers encircled her burned wrist. Neither of us spoke. Then she pulled away so sharply that her shoulder struck the wall. You will not do that again. Stop a tunnel from crushing us? Touch me without permission. You grabbed me first. That was tactical. So was this. Her cheeks had gained the slightest trace of color. I was intelligent enough not to mention it. Lyra replaced her damaged cuff. 3 rules, she said. You will not conceal information that threatens other contestants. You will not interfere with my decisions unless they endanger the mission. And you will not touch me again without permission. What mission? She stepped over the broken camera, keeping me alive long enough to discover why the director wants me dead. You believe me? I believe someone altered my cuff and sealed a supply cache you knew existed. Whether you are a prophet, a spy, or a delusional idiot remains undecided. That sounds less like trust and more like a hostage arrangement. It is an alliance. What do I receive? Lyra paused at the tunnel exit. My protection. I looked at the knife in her hand. From whom? Everyone except me. Then she walked into the forest. I followed because the storm that killed Eli Vane was 6 hours away, and the safest person on Nox 9 was apparently the woman most likely to kill me herself. We reached the weather station before sunset. It stood on a ridge above the forest, hidden beneath metallic vines. The original structure had 3 rooms, an underground generator, and enough emergency rations to last a week. In this version, the front door was open. Lyra raised one hand, stopping me. Voices came from inside. Orion stepped onto the balcony. He rested a pulse rifle against his shoulder and smiled down at us. Lynn, I was beginning to think you preferred dying alone. Lyra's expression froze. I understood immediately. Orion knew her disguise. That had not been revealed until after her death in the novel. Behind him stood Mina and 2 military contestants. They had already activated the generator. Orion's gaze shifted to me. Eli Vane, Sector 4's newest prophet. The footage traveled quickly. You told 12 people exactly how to survive an attack before it began. That makes you either useful or responsible. Lyra moved half a step in front of me. The gesture was subtle. Orion noticed. His smile thinned. We found the station, Lyra said. Move. I found it, Orion replied. The station holds 6. My team has 5 positions occupied. Mina leaned over the balcony railing. Technically, we have 4. I never agreed to join your team. You are using my generator. I repaired your generator. Their argument matched the novel closely enough to reassure me. Orion would let Mina remain because he needed her technical skills. He would reject Eli. Then the electrical storm would force Eli into the open. I looked toward the western sky. Dark blue clouds were already forming, earlier than they should have. Orion followed my gaze. You knew this station existed, he said. Yes. Then why did you arrive after me? Because I stopped to prevent 12 people from becoming predator food. Convenient answer. Lyra climbed the station steps. We require 2 spaces. I have 1. Then remove someone. One of the military contestants bristled. Orion raised a hand to silence him. You enter, he told Lyra. Eli stays outside. No. The answer came too quickly. Orion's eyes sharpened. He has no combat rating, no equipment, and no verified skill. If the storm reaches this ridge, one of us must maintain the external conductor. Why sacrifice someone valuable? In the original story, Eli had begged. I remembered the scene with painful clarity. He had offered his rations, his future prize money, and eventually, the location of another contestant. Orion rejected him anyway. I removed my extraction beacon from my chest. Everyone watched. Then I threw it onto the station floor. You're right, I said. Someone must maintain the conductor. Lyra turned toward me. What are you doing? Earning my place. You said the extraction system will fail. It will. Then if the conductor overloads, I die. Orion studied me, waiting for fear. I had plenty of it, but fear was not the same as surrender. Meaningful resistance, I murmured. Lyra heard me. What? Nothing. There was no system speaking inside my head. No blue screen would reward me for bravery. I simply understood something the original Eli had not. If I kept begging stronger people to decide whether I deserved shelter, I would die even if the storm spared me. Orion tossed me a maintenance harness. Last 10 minutes outside, and the space is yours. 5, Lyra said. 8, 6, and I stabilized the inner grid. Orion glanced at the suppression cuff on her wrist. You shouldn't use your ability. You shouldn't give me orders. Mina appeared in the doorway carrying a tool pack. 7 minutes, she said. If Eli survives, we all get power. If he dies, you 2 can continue flirting over his body. We are not flirting, Lyra and Orion said together. Mina looked at me. Your alliance seems exhausting. You have no idea. The storm struck at midnight. Lightning crawled horizontally through the sky, connecting the metal trees in webs of blue fire. The weather station's conductor rose from the roof, drawing the worst of the charge into its underground cells. For the first 2 minutes, I believed I might survive easily. Then the conductor jammed. Mina's voice came through my earpiece. The upper ring isn't rotating. You need to release it manually. I climbed the external ladder. Wind tore at my harness. Electricity moved over my gloves, filling the air with the smell of burning fabric. In the original novel, the conductor had functioned perfectly. Someone had damaged the bearing. Cassian was not merely changing isolated details. He was converting every safe location into another trap. Eli, Lyra said through the channel, come down. If I do, the station loses power. Then we abandon it. The forest is worse. That is not a request. I reached the upper ring. A black bolt had been driven into the bearing. It bore the network maintenance insignia. Proof. I activated my suit camera. Record this, Mina answered. Already recording. Lightning struck the conductor. My body left the ladder. The harness caught me 3 meters below the roof. For one instant, I hung above the burning forest while the storm illuminated every branch beneath me. Then the harness cable began to tear. Lyra appeared outside without protective gear. What are you doing? I shouted. Breaking my first rule. She extended her hand. Gravity caught me. Instead of falling, I slammed sideways into her. We rolled across the roof as another bolt struck the conductor. Lyra ended beneath me. My forearm braced beside her head. One of my knees had landed between hers. Her hands were locked around the back of my suit. For half a second, neither of us reacted. Her hair had come loose. Silver strands crossed her face. The moving light inside her eyes made it impossible to look anywhere else. You can release me, I said. So can you? I'm preventing us from sliding off the roof. I am controlling gravity. Then why are we still in this position? Her grip tightened once before she let go. The roof tilted beneath us as the station shifted. I caught the conductor cable, wrapped it around my arm, and pulled the ring into position. Now, I shouted. Mina activated the release. The conductor turned. Power surged downward. The station lights blazed beneath us. The ranking display awarded each occupant 50 survival points. Orion opened the roof hatch. His gaze moved from Lyra to me, and then to the way her hand still rested against my side. The 7 minutes ended a while ago. Lyra stood. He found sabotage. That erased the amusement from Orion's face. We showed him the bolt. Mina scanned it and confirmed it had been installed within the last 48 hours. Orion argued that a rogue maintenance worker might be responsible. Lyra said nothing. She watched me remove my burned glove. The skin across my palm had blistered. Without asking, she took my wrist. You said I wasn't allowed to interfere with your decisions, I reminded her. I said nothing about treating the consequences of your bad ones. She guided me inside. Orion watched us go. That night, 6 of us slept in the station's central room while the storm moved across Nox 9. There were only 4 thermal blankets. Orion offered one to Lyra. She gave it to Mina. Then she sat beside me against the wall. You are shaking, she said. I was electrocuted. Your suit temperature is falling. I'll survive. That phrase is becoming less convincing. She opened her coat. I looked at her. What? Shared body heat. This feels like another violation of your rules. You have permission. Her voice was so controlled that I almost believed the situation meant nothing to her. Almost. I shifted beneath the coat. Our shoulders touched, then our sides. Lyra pulled the thermal lining around us, leaving no space for cold air. Across the room, Mina looked up from repairing her scanner. Her eyebrows rose. I ignored her. Lyra leaned close to examine the burn on my palm. You knew the conductor would fail? No. You looked surprised. I was. That pleased you. Why would almost dying please me? Because it proved the future can change. I turned toward her. Our faces were closer than I expected. The original Eli died tonight, and you did not. Not yet. Her gaze lowered briefly to my mouth before returning to my eyes. Do you always answer hope with a threat? It keeps disappointment manageable. That is a coward's strategy. You held a knife to my throat 6 hours ago, and yet I am the one sharing my coat. Are you asking for gratitude? I am asking whether you distrust everyone, or only me. The honest answer came too quickly. You especially. Her expression cooled. Because I threatened you? Because I know what you can become. In the novel, Lyra had been compassionate even toward people who feared her, but I also knew the private reports revealed after her death. Her family had tried to force her into neural compatibility trials. During one escape attempt, she had nearly destroyed a medical station. Power had never frightened me when she was fictional. Now I could feel it humming beneath her skin. Lyra withdrew her hand from mine. What do I become? I don't know anymore. That was not your answer. You were supposed to die tomorrow. Everything after that is unwritten. For the first time, her composure broke completely. She looked toward the shuttered window. The first future you cannot predict is mine. Yes. And that frightens you more than my death. I wanted to deny it. She would have known. Lyra moved away, taking half the warmth with her. You can keep the coat. I didn't mean. I know what you meant. She stood and crossed the room. Orion made space beside him. Lyra ignored the offered blanket and sat alone near the door. The cold returned instantly. It was the first time I heard her. It would not be the last. Predator Canyon opened at noon on the 3rd day. Cassian announced the trial from a hovering platform while 87 remaining contestants gathered at the canyon entrance. Within the canyon are 12 ranking crystals, he said. Retrieve one and return before the second siren. Contestants without a crystal will lose half their accumulated points. The original trial had contained 10 crystals. Cassian had added 2. He wanted more contestants inside. Dax stood near the eastern wall with a medical case at his feet. He was broad, blonde, and forgettable by design. In the novel, a private buyer paid him to weaken the canyon so Lyra's death would appear accidental. I moved toward him. Lyra caught my arm. She released it immediately, remembering her rule. You said Dax triggers the collapse, she said. He does. Then we expose him now. With what evidence? You know what is inside his case. If we accuse him and we're wrong, Cassian isolates us before the trial. You are not wrong. The supply cache was sealed. The conductor was sabotaged. Details are changing. Her jaw tightened. You want to allow the attack. I want to catch Dax placing the charge. And if the canyon collapses first? It won't happen until 19 minutes after the second siren. You said the conductor would function. I never said that. The novel did. Lyra looked toward Dax. Orion approached us. You two are doing a poor job of appearing unrelated. We're discussing strategy, I said. You discuss strategy while staring at a medic? Dax noticed our attention and lifted his case. Then he walked away from the eastern wall. My stomach tightened. He was changing position. Cassian's voice counted down. 10 seconds. I searched the canyon rim. New metal brackets had been installed along the northern arch. The place Lyra was supposed to die. Lyra, don't enter. Her eyes flashed. You brought me here to stop this. The trap has changed. Then we adapt. I need time. You have spent 2 days telling me time is the one thing I do not have. The starting signal sounded. Contestants rushed into the canyon. Dax disappeared among them. Lyra stepped backward toward the entrance. I caught her wrist. She looked down at my hand. No. One word. Not angry. Final. I released her. Please. Something moved in her expression. I had warned her, ordered her, challenged her, and lied by omission. I had not asked her for anything. Tell me why, she said. Because this is where I watched you die. The crowd flowed around us. Lyra's gaze softened. Then an explosion shook the canyon. The northern arch cracked. 14 contestants were already inside. Cassian had triggered the collapse before the trial began. Lyra turned. I grabbed for her again and stopped myself. She saw the movement. If I stay, she said, they die instead. I know. You cannot ask me to become someone who would accept that. I know. The second explosion sounded. Stone broke from the canyon wall. Lyra touched my face. It was the first time she initiated contact without tactical necessity. Her fingers rested against my cheek for less than a second. Then watch more carefully this time. She ran into the canyon. Orion followed. I swore and went after them. The first arch collapsed 40 meters ahead. Lyra threw both hands upward. The falling rocks stopped in the air. Every light in her suppression cuff turned red. Move! She shouted. Contestants ran beneath the suspended debris. Orion directed them toward the southern exit. He was effective, calm, and braver than I wanted him to be. The novel had simplified him into a selfish hero because the story needed Lyra's death to propel his guilt. Here, he kept looking back for her. Dax crouched beside the northern support with his medical case open. I tackled him. We struck the ground as he pressed the trigger. Nothing happened. I tore the device from his hand. Dax smiled. You're late. A detonation sounded beneath us. The charge was not in his case. It was under the canyon floor. A fracture raced toward Lyra. The ground collapsed. I caught the edge with one hand. Dax fell into the darkness. His fingers closed around my burned wrist. Pain exploded through my arm. Help me, he gasped. In the novel, Dax escaped. He later became one of Orion's allies. I could let go. No one would blame me. Then, I saw a small red light beneath his collar. A transmitter. Dax was not the only person controlling the charges. I pulled him upward. Who gave you the second trigger? His fear vanished. A current passed through the transmitter. Dax convulsed. His grip opened. I caught his harness, but the buckle detached as if designed to fail. He fell. Before he disappeared, he forced out 2 words. Not Cassian. The canyon floor broke beneath me. Gravity twisted. I flew backward and struck the wall beside Lyra. Her face had gone white. Blood ran from her nose. The floating rocks trembled. Everyone is out, Orion shouted from the southern path. Lyra, release it, she tried. Nothing happened. Metal brackets along the arch activated, generating a counterfield. Her own power had been trapped in a feedback loop. Exactly as in the novel, Lyra would hold the canyon until the strain ruptured her heart. I searched for the control node. There, 20 meters above us, protected behind a slab of black stone. Orion saw it too. I'll destroy the node. No, I said. The backlash will hit her directly. Then what? In the original story, no one answered. I looked at Lyra's left wrist. Her suppression cup was designed to contain her power. Reversing it might absorb the counterfield. It might also fuse to her nervous system. I climbed over the broken ground toward her. She shook her head. Stay back. I need the cuff. You cannot remove it while I'm active. I'm not removing it. A rock struck the ground between us. I reached her. The gravitational pressure forced me to my knees. Lyra's arms shook above her. Eli, leave. I've read this scene. Then you know how it ends. I hated the ending. I grabbed her wrist with both hands. Pain tore through me as the field entered my arms. Lyra cried out. You promised not to touch me. You told me not to interfere unless your decision endangered the mission. This is not a mission. It is to me. I opened the cuff's maintenance panel with the edge of her knife. Orion shielded us from falling debris. Tell me what to do, he shouted. Break the southern anchor when I reverse the cuff. That will drop the arch. Only the northern half. Only? Lyra's legs gave way. I caught her against my chest, her back pressed to me, her head beneath my chin. I wrapped one arm around her waist to hold her upright, while my other hand worked on the cuff. Her heartbeat was frighteningly fast. Breathe, I said. I cannot. Yes, you can. The field. Feel my chest. This is not the time for your terrible strategy. It worked in the tunnel. I took her hand and pressed it over my heart. 4 seconds. The entire canyon groaned. Lyra tried to follow. Her breath broke halfway through. I tightened my arm around her waist. Again. She inhaled, held, released. The cuff panel opened. 3 wires glowed inside. In the novel, blue controlled suppression, gold controlled monitoring, and black. Black had never been explained. Cassian's voice entered our private channel. Eli, step away from her. Lyra's eyes opened. Director. Cassian sounded almost gentle. You have performed admirably, Lady Soren, but your ability is destabilizing the arena. Activate your extraction beacon, and we can save the remaining contestants. The remaining contestants are outside, I said. You are not part of this conversation. The black wire, I whispered to Lyra. What does it do? She looked at the cuff. I don't know. Cassian heard me. Do not touch that wire, which answered the question. I cut it. The cuff released a pulse that knocked Orion off his feet. Lyra screamed. Every floating rock shot upward. For one impossible instant, the canyon opened to the sky. Now, I shouted. Orion fired at the southern anchor. It shattered. The counterfield collapsed. Lyra's power vanished. So did the force holding the northern arch. Stone fell toward us. I covered her body with mine. Then we were moving. Orion had seized my harness and dragged us into the southern passage as the canyon came down behind us. Dust swallowed the world. I hit the ground with Lyra beneath me. For several seconds, all I heard was my own breathing. Then she moved. Her hands gripped my suit. Eli, I'm here. Are you injured? Probably. That is not an answer. It's the only one I have. I lifted my head. A thin beam of daylight cut through the dust. Lyra's face was inches from mine. Blood marked her upper lip. Without thinking, I wiped it away with my thumb. She went still. I realized what I had done. You have permission, she whispered. The canyon cameras rotated toward us. Neither of us moved away. Then Orion coughed behind me. If you two are finished discovering intimacy beneath several thousand tons of unstable stone, we should leave. Lyra's face changed from vulnerable to murderous so quickly that I nearly smiled. Outside the canyon, the rescued contestants surrounded us. The public rankings updated. Orion had earned 400 points for evacuation leadership. Lyra received 300 for preventing fatalities. My score rose by 12. Cassian had classified everything I did as unauthorized interference. Orion looked at the rankings and frowned. You disabled the trap. It was a team effort. You received fewer points than someone who found a crystal. That's because Cassian wants me desperate. A medical drone approached Lyra. She destroyed it before it could scan her. Then, she took my hand in full view of the cameras. Not my wrist, my hand. Your burn reopened. I'll live. That phrase remains unconvincing. She led me toward the temporary shelter. Public comments appeared above us. Lynn and Ellie? Did she just hold his hand? Orion saved both of them. Who is she? Lyra read the comments. Her fingers loosened. I thought she would let go. Instead, she intertwined them with mine. My heartbeat became less manageable than it had been beneath the canyon. Is this tactical? I asked. Yes. What's the strategy? The audience is watching your score. If they become invested in you, Cassian cannot remove you quietly. So you're creating a romantic narrative. Would you prefer I release you? She began to withdraw her hand. I held on. Lyra looked at me. For the audience, I said. Of course. Neither of us believed me. That was the moment our alliance became dangerous. Not because I knew Lyra's future, because I started wanting a place in it. Over the next 7 days, Cassian turned the planet against us. The water coordinates I remembered led to poisoned reservoirs. A shelter that had been empty in the novel contained armed drones. The marsh trial began 6 hours early, trapping 30 contestants before they received protective filters. Every time I used my knowledge, Cassian created a countermeasure. Every time we survived, he punished someone near us. Mina joined our alliance after discovering that the conductor bolt and Lyra's cuff shared the same manufacturing code. She was the first person other than Lyra to hear my claim that I knew the original sequence of trials. She listened without interruption. Then she asked, was I interesting in the novel? You exposed the network after the tournament. Did anyone listen? Not until Orion supported you. Her mouth flattened. So even in another universe, a woman needs a famous man to repeat her evidence. You became chief engineer of his fleet. That is not better. She believed me only after I predicted the location of a buried transmission tower. Even then, she called my memories an unreliable stolen map, rather than prophecy. Orion remained outside our formal alliance but appeared whenever the trials became lethal. He suspected I had network access. Lyra refused to explain me. which made him more suspicious. It also made the audience obsessed with the three of us. The network began editing footage to imply that Lyra was torn between Orion and me. In one broadcast, they showed Orion carrying her after the canyon, while cutting the earlier footage of me stabilizing her cuff. In another, they replayed Lyra holding my hand 17 times. Cassian created a public compatibility vote. Orion and Lin, 61 fun trum. Ellie and Lin, 34 fun trum. Mina voted for herself and the emergency generator. On day 10, Cassian announced a zero-gravity trial inside a wrecked passenger ship. Teams of 2 would enter through separate airlocks, retrieve a navigation core, and escape before the wreck fell into the planet's atmosphere. The pairing algorithm placed Lyra with Orion. It placed me with Nova Heiress, the most popular contestant remaining. Nova was 21, beautiful in the deliberate way of someone who had grown up in front of cameras, and clever enough to conceal it beneath jokes. She had entered the tournament with 12 million followers and no expectation of winning. She also knew exactly what the network wanted. At the airlock, she clipped our safety tethers together. The cable connected my waist to hers. "Your mysterious girlfriend looks unhappy," she said. "Lin isn't my girlfriend." Across the loading bay, Lyra watched Nova adjust my harness. The buckle sat unnecessarily low on my hip. Nova noticed Lyra watching. She took longer. Not according to the audience. The audience also thinks Orion controls lightning. He paid an editing team to make it look that way. That explains a lot. Nova leaned close to inspect my oxygen seal. Her perfume smelled faintly of citrus, absurdly expensive for a survival planet. "What are you doing?" I asked. "Creating a thumbnail. Create one from farther away." "You're less attractive from farther away." Lyra crossed the bay. She stopped beside us and looked at Nova's hand on my waist. "The seal is secure." Nova smiled. "I prefer verifying personally." "So do I." Lyra removed Nova's hand. Then she checked the same buckle herself. Her fingers moved once around the edge of my harness. The contact was brief, but the possessiveness behind it was not. "Your tether is twisted," she told me. "It wasn't. It is now." Orion approached in time to hear her. "If we survive the wreck," he said, "perhaps the three of you can continue this territorial dispute somewhere without explosive decompression." Lyra's expression became glacial. Nova laughed. I looked at the cameras. Cassian was giving the audience exactly what it wanted: jealousy, rivalry, and a distraction from sabotage. I caught Lyra's wrist before she turned away. She looked down at my hand. I released her immediately. "Can we speak privately?" "We have 40 seconds. That's enough." I guided her behind the airlock shield. The cameras could still see our silhouettes but not read our lips. "You don't get to move people away from me because you dislike where they put their hands." I corrected your harness. "You twisted it." She was performing for the cameras. "So were we when you held my hand." Lyra's face tightened. "That was different." "Why?" She had no answer she wanted to give. I stepped closer. "Your rules cannot apply only when they protect you." "I was protecting you. From flirting? From manipulation. You manipulate me every time you call an order an alliance." The words landed harder than I intended. Lyra looked past me toward the loading bay. "You are right. I had expected resistance." Her agreement left me unprepared. She met my eyes again. "I had no right to touch her or change your pairing. It will not happen again." The airlock countdown reached 20 seconds. She started to leave. "Lyra." She stopped at the sound of her real name. "Only Mina and I used it in private." "Are you jealous?" I asked. "No." A pause. Then she added, "I am furious that I cannot determine why I dislike seeing her touch you. That is a very long definition of jealousy. You should enter the airlock before I discover a shorter definition of murder." She walked away. I smiled until I saw Cassian watching us from the observation deck. The wreck trial began. Nova and I entered through a breach in the lower hull. With gravity disabled, every movement carried us meters through the dark. The original novel devoted 3 chapters to this trial. Orion retrieved the navigation core, saved Lyra from decompression, and became the audience favorite. Eli Vane was already dead by then. I knew the safe route, but Cassian knew I knew it. "Take Corridor 7, I told Nova. "The map marks it as collapsed. That's why he won't expect us to use it." "He? The person trying to kill me." Nova pushed away from the wall and floated beside me. "That description includes half the audience." "Cassian." Her smile vanished. "You say dangerous names casually. Do you know something? I know the network replaced my private camera before this trial. They claimed the original had corrupted storage." "Did it?" "No. Where is it?" Nova tapped the center of her chest plate. "Still recording." She was not simply a romantic distraction. Cassian had paired us because he suspected she possessed evidence and hoped one of us would eliminate the other. A warning light flashed. The wreck rotated. Nova's tether wrapped around a metal beam and snapped tight. Her body jerked backward. I caught her around the waist before her helmet struck the wall. Momentum spun us together through the corridor. "Thruster," I said. "Jammed." I fired mine. The rotation slowed. Nova remained pressed against me, both arms around my shoulders. Through her visor, her expression was no longer playful. "You knew this would happen?" "No." "Good. Why is that good?" "Because I was beginning to wonder whether anything could surprise you." The wreck shook. A door opened beneath us. Gravity returned without warning. We fell. I twisted so my back struck the floor first. Nova landed across my chest. Pain tore through my injured ribs. She lifted herself quickly. "I'm sorry. I'll survive." That line works better when you don't sound dead. The corridor sealed at both ends. Gas began filling the chamber. Not poison. A stimulant designed to elevate heart rate and body temperature. I recognized the room from the novel. It was a biometric lock. The exit opened only when 2 occupants synchronized their heartbeats above a specified threshold. Orion had used an adrenaline injector. The medical compartment where he found it should have been behind the western panel. I opened the panel. Empty. Cassian's voice entered the chamber. Contestants must discover the emotional key to proceed. Nova looked at the camera. Oh, that is shameless. A heart rate display appeared above the door. Mine read 112. Nova's read 98. Target synchronization, 140. The gas will raise us gradually, I said. And cook our nervous systems before we reach the target. There should be an injector. But your friend moved it. I searched the room. No tools. No exposed circuits. No way to fake the sensor. Nova leaned against the door. The network expects physical stimulation. I know. You look terrified. I am calculating. Of kissing me? Of what Lyra will do when she watches it. Nova laughed, then winced as the gas thickened. Our heart rates are already closer. That isn't helping. Eli, I like flirting with you, but I am not going to kiss someone who is thinking about another woman. The humor left her voice. I looked at her. For the first time, she was not performing. What do you suggest? Fear works as well as desire. She detached our safety tether and wrapped it around her forearm. Then she opened a maintenance hatch in the floor. Below it, the ship's damaged reactor pulsed with blue fire. Nova jumped. I caught the tether. Her body dropped into the shaft, suspended above the reactor. My heart rate spiked. What are you doing? Matching your preferred emotion. The display rose to 130. Nova looked down at the reactor. Her pulse climbed. 132. 136. The tether began slipping through my burned hand. Nova, climb. Almost there. The cable cut into my skin. 139. The wreck shook again. The tether anchor broke. Nova fell. I threw myself into the shaft and caught her wrist. Our bodies swung above the reactor. The display sounded. Synchronization achieved. The door opened. Emergency gravity pulled us upward. We collapsed on the floor together. Nova stared at me. You jumped after me. You had the evidence. Her eyes narrowed. That answer was almost charming. You also saved us. Better. She touched my face, checking a cut near my eyebrow. The chamber camera moved closer. I gently caught her hand and lowered it. Don't give Cassian more footage to manipulate. Something like disappointment passed through her expression, but she nodded. When we reached the central chamber, Lyra and Orion were already there. Orion held the navigation core. Lyra had blood on her sleeve. She saw Nova beside me, then the fresh wound across my palm. What happened? Biometric trap. Orion looked toward our corridor. How did you open it? Nova smiled at Lyra. We synchronized. The temperature of the room seemed to fall. I gave Nova a warning look. She ignored it. Lyra stepped toward me. Were you exposed to stimulants? Yes. Your pupils are dilated. Also yes. She placed 2 fingers against my neck to measure my pulse. Her touch was cool. My heart rate, which had finally begun falling, rose again, Lyra noticed. So did Nova. Orion looked toward the ceiling as if asking the universe for patience. The wreck enters the atmosphere in 6 minutes, he said. Could we postpone the romantic catastrophe? The navigation core activated. Instead of revealing an escape route, it projected Cassian's face. Congratulations, finalists. You have located the heart of the Astrea. Mina's voice entered our channel from the external control ship. Eli, that isn't a navigation core. It's a gravitational amplifier. Lyra's fingers left my neck. The device unfolded. Metal restraints shot from it and locked around her suppression cuff. The wreck's artificial gravity multiplied. We hit the floor. Lyra remained standing for 1 second longer than the rest of us. Then one knee struck the metal. The amplifier drew power from her body. Cassian had never intended the trial to test survival. He wanted to trigger her ability publicly. Orion, I gasped. Destroy the core. I can't move. Nova reached for her hidden camera. A drone emerged from the wall and fired at her. I rolled into its path. The pulse struck my shoulder. My arm went numb. Lyra saw me fall. Something inside her broke. Gravity vanished. Then it returned from every direction. The walls bent inward. Orion shouted her name. Lyra's eyes blazed blue. The restraint around her wrist sank into her skin. Cassian's plan became clear. He wanted the galaxy to watch Lyra lose control and kill us. House Soren would be forced to surrender military authority. Cassian's buyer would gain access to her compatibility program. I crawled toward her. Eli, stay away, Orion said. He is right, Lyra whispered. Her voice came from everywhere in the room. I kept moving. Metal fragments rose around me. One cut my cheek. Lyra flinched. The entire field shifted away from my body. Even without control, she was protecting me. I reached her and took her face between my hands. Her power struck my bones like ocean pressure. Look at me. I will kill you. No, you have not seen this future. Neither have you. The amplifier tightened. Lyra cried out. I pressed my forehead against hers. 4 seconds in. I cannot. You said that last time. This is different. So are you. Her hands caught my suit at the waist. I felt her trying to push me away and pull me closer at the same time. 4 seconds, I repeated. She inhaled. The room stopped collapsing. Hold. The field trembled. Release. Gravity weakened. Orion dragged himself toward the amplifier. Nova used her tether to pull the drone from the wall. I kept my forehead against Lyra's. Her breath touched my mouth. Again. Inhale. Hold. Release. Her fingers tightened at my waist. The blue light in her eyes dimmed. Orion tore open the amplifier housing. There are 2 power cells. Break the black one, I said. How do you know? I don't. He stared at me. That is not reassuring. The black circuit controlled her cuff in the canyon. Good enough. He drove his fist into the cell. The amplifier exploded. Lyra and I fell backward. Emergency lights flashed. The wreck's descent alarm began screaming. Nova opened the escape route while Orion carried the damaged core. I tried to stand, but my right arm remained useless from the drone pulse. Lyra pulled it over her shoulders. I can walk, I said. Then walk. You're carrying most of me. You are heavier than your poor decisions suggest. We reached the escape pod with 30 seconds remaining. It held 4 people. Exactly 4. Cassian had expected Lyra, Orion, Nova, and me to survive. Which meant the true attack had not yet happened. Don't launch, I said. Orion's hand stopped above the control. The wreck enters the atmosphere in 20 seconds. The pod is trapped. Based on the novel? Based on Cassian wanting Lyra alive after making her look unstable. Lyra examined the pod wall. A thin needle protruded beside her seat. Neural sedative. If she sat down, it would enter her spine. Orion ripped it out. The timer reached 12 seconds. Nova pointed toward the maintenance bay. 4 emergency suits. We abandoned the pod. At 3 seconds, we launched ourselves from the wreck. The Estrella entered the atmosphere behind us. Fire filled the sky. Our emergency suits deployed wings. The shockwaves scattered us. I spun through the clouds with no control in my right arm. A silver shape cut across my vision. Lyra caught me from behind. Her arms closed around my chest, and her legs locked against mine to stabilize our descent. Stop making me catch you, she said into my earpiece. You keep arriving. That is not consent to develop a habit. Her breath was uneven. Are you hurt? No, you're lying. Your influence is becoming irritating. We descended toward the recovery zone. Below, thousands of spectators and camera drones waited. Lyra did not release me when our suits stabilized. Her cheek rested briefly against the back of my shoulder. No one else could see her expression. I almost killed you, she whispered. You moved the field away from me. I could feel your bones bending. And you stopped. Because you touched me. I remembered her first rule. No touching without permission. Now my touch had become the one thing capable of reaching her through the gravitational feedback. That did not make it safe. It made it another method of control. Lyra, we need another way. Her arms tightened. You regret it? No. The answer was too immediate. She went still behind me. I continued more carefully. I don't want your survival dependent on whether I'm close enough to hold you. For several seconds, only the atmosphere roared around us. Then she said, nor do I. But she did not let go until our boots touched the ground. Cassian declared Orion the winner of the wreck trial. The network gave Nova a bravery bonus. Lyra lost points for unauthorized ability use. I received a penalty for destroying network property, though I had destroyed nothing. The public reaction was different. Footage of Lyra carrying me through the escape corridor became the most replayed moment in the show's history. Her arms around me during descent became the second. The network released a slowed version with music. Lyra watched 6 seconds before crushing the display in her hand. Mina recovered Nova's private recording. It showed the drone targeting her before Lyra lost control, and proved the amplifier had restrained Lyra deliberately. For the first time, we possessed evidence Cassian had not erased. For the first time, he stopped pretending the attacks were accidents. That night, security drones surrounded our shelter. Cassian's voice came through the walls. Eli Vane, exit alone. Your alliance will not be penalized if you cooperate. Lyra rose. I caught her hand. She looked at our joined fingers, then at me. I have permission? I asked. Yes, stay here. No. He wants you to react. He tried to turn me into a weapon. He succeeded for 30 seconds. Don't give him another chance. The shelter door shook beneath an impact. Mina checked the rear exit. Sealed. Orion lifted his rifle. He had joined us after the wreck, though he still claimed it was temporary. Cassian spoke again. If, Mr. Vane does not surrender within 1 minute, all contestants in Sector 6 will lose access to medical extraction. He's making everyone hostage to my decision, I said. That is what he did to Dax, Mina replied. Dax's final words returned to me. Not Cassian. Perhaps he had not meant Cassian was innocent. Perhaps he had meant someone above Cassian controlled the second trigger. I opened the shelter door. Lyra moved in front of me. I placed one hand against her waist and guided her aside. The contact startled both of us. Her body went rigid beneath my palm. I'll come back, I said. You cannot know that. No. Her eyes searched mine. It was the first promise I made without any knowledge of the outcome. I'll come back anyway. Outside, the drones formed a corridor toward an armored transport. Cassian waited inside. No guards. No cameras I could see. I sat opposite him. The doors closed. He poured 2 glasses of water. I expected you to be less composed. I expected you to have better traps. You survived them. People were injured. People volunteered. You disabled extraction. Temporary technical failures. You installed the conductor bolt. altered Lyra's cuff, and placed the amplifier inside the Astrea. Cassian smiled. Can you prove all three? Eventually. No, Eli, you cannot. He slid a thin tablet across the table. It displayed a live image of my foster home on Callisto Station. 9 children slept inside. My debt sponsor stood near the entrance. A red targeting marker rested over the building. Cassian watched my face. You remember them. They were Eli's memories, not mine. But they lived inside me with all the pain of belonging. A little girl named Sana had cried when Eli left. His foster brother June had given him the last protein bar in the home, threatening children on a private feed. I said, that's careless. This transport blocks recording. My suit camera was disabled before you entered. He was right. Cassian leaned back. You believe you understand this story because you saw one version of it. You do not understand who wrote it. My skin went cold. What did you say? His smile changed. Not surprise. Recognition. You have been so careful not to use the word novel near anyone except Lady Soren and Mina Rook. Did you think the Rex internal microphones failed with the cameras? You heard us. I heard enough. He tapped the tablet. The image changed to a document titled Project Palimpsest. Below, it appeared hundreds of probability models, each containing contestant names and predicted outcomes. In most, Lyra died on day 3. In 72%, Orion won. In every model, Eli Vane died before day 4. What is this? The future, Cassian said. Not yours, ours. He explained that Last Horizon had never been an ordinary survival show. Beneath Nox 9, a quantum prediction engine simulated human decisions with extraordinary accuracy. The network used it to design trials, manufacture heroes, and sell political outcomes. Starfall Air had not predicted this world. This world had produced the story. Somehow, fragments of the simulation had reached my old reality in the form of fiction. The novel I remembered was merely Cassian's preferred outcome. You didn't read Fate, he said. You read a product draft. Then why do I remember events the engine predicted? That is the question my employers want answered. The transport lights dimmed. Cassian placed a contract before me. Complete the remaining trials. Continue performing your miracles. At the final, publicly accuse Lyra Soren of manipulating you with her ability. In exchange, the children live. You receive the prize. Orion becomes the hero the galaxy already wants, and Lady Soren is confined humanely. You want access to her power. I want stability. You sabotaged her until she nearly killed 4 people. Because fear creates public consent. I looked at the image of the foster home. Cassian had designed the choice carefully. If I refused now, children died. If I accepted, I could search for a way to save them later. But obedience would give him control over every future decision. The original Eli had begged stronger people to decide whether he deserved shelter. I would not become him again. I picked up the glass of water. Cassian relaxed slightly, then I poured it over the contract. I'm going to destroy your engine. His expression emptied. You have no fleet, no citizenship, and no legal identity beyond network property. I have one advantage. Knowledge of obsolete predictions. You think you know why I make decisions. I leaned forward. You don't. Cassian touched the tablet. The targeting marker over the foster home turned solid red. Before he could confirm the strike, the transport tilted violently. Cassian slammed into the wall. Metal screamed around us. Through the window, I saw the horizon rotate. The entire vehicle was floating. Lyra's voice came through the external speakers. Open the door. Cassian wiped blood from his mouth. She will kill everyone inside. No, I said. She'll hold the transport perfectly still while peeling it apart one layer at a time. The outer armor tore away. She has an excellent sense of control when she's angry. The door ripped from its frame. Lyra stood outside with Orion and Mina behind her. Her eyes found the targeting display. The transport dropped 1 meter. Cassian grabbed the table. Lyra stepped inside. What did you threaten? No one, Cassian said. She looked at me. The foster home, I answered. Callisto Station. Orion contacted his military sponsor. Mina transmitted the coordinates to Nova's private audience network. Within seconds, 12 million viewers had copies of the targeting image. Cassian's leverage disappeared. Lyra approached him. The air became heavy. I stood and placed myself between them. He has information we need. He threatened children. He wants you to kill him. I do not care what he wants. I do. Her gaze shifted to me. You do not get to decide what I become, she said. No. But I get to decide whether I help you become it. The words hurt her. I saw it happen. Lyra released the gravitational field. Cassian fell to his knees, gasping. Security alarms sounded outside. More network forces approached. We leave now, Orion said. Lyra did not move. I reached for her hand. She stepped back. The distance was barely half a meter. It felt larger than the canyon. You use touch when you want to control me, she said quietly. My hand dropped. That wasn't my intention. It has become your method. She walked out of the transport without looking back. Cassian smiled from the floor. He had found the fracture between us. For the next 2 days, Lyra spoke to me only when necessary. She no longer sat beside me in shelters. She no longer allowed me to examine her cuff. When the network divided us during combat trials, she chose Orion as her partner, before Cassian could force the arrangement. The audience interpreted everything as romantic drama. Cassian encouraged it. He released clips of Lyra and Orion training together, accompanied by reports that their families had once discussed marriage. For reasons I refused to examine, I watched every clip. Mina caught me replaying one in which Orion steadied Lyra by the waist after she lost balance. "You are damaging the screen with your eyes," she said. I'm studying her cuff response. Her cuff is not around Orion's neck. He's touching her too close to the damaged nerve path. You mean her waist? You mean you are jealous? I am evaluating risk. Mina looked delighted. Lyra used the same sentence when Nova touched you. I shut off the display. This isn't useful. No, but it is satisfying. She sat beside me and handed over a decrypted file. Inside was Lyra's compatibility contract, the document Cassian would later reveal at the final. My name appeared at the top, registered 6 months earlier. I read the forced neural bonding clause 3 times. This is fake. The signature is authentic, Mina said. She didn't know me 6 months ago. Perhaps you did not know her. I remembered every conversation with Lyra, her suspicion when I approached, her surprise when I knew about her death, her fury when I touched her. Could all of it have been performance? The neural compatibility program matched gravitational wielders with stabilizing partners. Bonding allowed one person's nervous system to regulate the other's power. My touch calmed Lyra more effectively than the cuff. What if that was not trust? What if it was biology engineered before we met? Does she know you found this? I asked. No, I stood. Lyra was training outside the shelter with Orion. I found them near the edge of a thermal lake. Orion attacked with a staff. Lyra shifted gravity beneath him, but he anticipated the movement and caught her arm. She turned, locking his wrist. They stopped chest to chest. Something hot and irrational moved through me. Orion saw me first. Lyra followed his gaze, her expression closed. We need to talk, I said. I am training. It can't wait. Orion released her. I'll leave. No, Lyra said. Whatever Eli wishes to say can be said in front of you. That was punishment. Perhaps I deserved it. I held out the contract. The color left her face. Where did you get that? Mina found it in Cassian's files. Lyra took the tablet. Her eyes moved over the document. You registered me before we met. Yes. The simple admission cut deeper than denial would have. Why? It is complicated. Try. Orion looked between us. I truly should leave. Stay, I said. Apparently this concerns the man Lyra's family expected her to marry. Lyra's head snapped toward me. This has nothing to do with Orion. The contract lists him as primary candidate 1. I refused him. And registered me. Yes. Why? She glanced at the cameras in the distance. Not here. I laughed once. The sound contained no humor. You always say that when the truth threatens your control. Her eyes hardened. You are angry. I understand. You purchased the right to bond my nervous system to yours before I knew your name. I did not purchase you. The contract calls me a candidate asset. I did not write it. You signed it. To protect you. From what? She fell silent. That silence answered every insecurity Cassian wanted me to feel. I stepped back. Lyra reached for my wrist. I moved out of range. Her hand stopped. Pain flashed across her face. Eli, let me explain. Did you know touching me would stabilize you? I suspected. Before the tunnel? Yes. Every intimate moment rearranged itself inside my memory. Her palm on my chest. Our bodies beneath her coat. Her permission in the canyon. Her arms around me during descent. Perhaps none of it had belonged to us. Perhaps I had simply performed the function for which I was selected. Was the alliance a compatibility trial? At first, Orion swore quietly. Lyra took another step toward me. It stopped being that. When? I don't know. Convenient. When you climbed the conductor. When you came after me in the canyon. When you held me inside the wreck despite believing I might crush you. Her voice tightened. Choose any moment. Choose all of them. Why should I trust your answer? Because I have never lied about wanting to survive. That isn't what I asked. I handed her the ring she had given me to conceal our private channel. Not the Soren engagement ring from the final. A simpler black band she had placed in my palm after the canyon. Her fingers closed around it. I won't be tested without consent, I said. And I won't let you call possession protection. You are not my possession. Then stop deciding what I'm allowed to know. I walked away. Lyra did not follow. Orion caught up with me near the shelter. That contract was created after an assassination attempt against Lyra, he said. She can explain it herself. She would, if you gave her longer than 10 seconds before turning every fear she has into evidence against her. I stopped. You knew? I knew. Her family maintained a candidate list. I did not know you were on it. Did she test you too? Yes. The answer surprised me. Orion looked back toward the lake. I was compatible, politically useful, and willing. She rejected me because my family demanded control of her fleet in exchange. You don't seem heartbroken. I was 16. I was more offended than heartbroken. The broadcast suggests otherwise. The broadcast also suggests I control lightning. Despite myself, I almost smiled. Orion's expression became serious. Lyra does not know how to ask for what she wants. Her family taught her that requesting anything reveals weakness, so she protects, commands, threatens, and occasionally kidnaps. She kidnapped someone? Me. For 6 hours. It was a negotiation. That does not help her case. No. Orion looked at me directly, but she has never looked at me the way she looks at you. I thought you were supposed to be my rival. I am your rival. For first place. Romantically, watching you two suffer has become exhausting. He walked away. I remained angry. Unfortunately, anger no longer made the truth simple. Nova found me after sunset. She carried 2 sealed drinks and offered me one. I hear you are single again. I was never in a relationship. That is the sort of sentence people say immediately before making terrible romantic decisions. We sat beside a heat vent overlooking the red plains. Nova did not flirt for several minutes. That made me pay attention. The network offered me immunity, she said. They want my private recordings. What did you tell them? That I lost the camera. Did they believe you? No. She handed me a storage shard. Every recording from day 1. Why give it to me? Because Cassian's people searched my shelter today. Tomorrow, they will search inside my suit. I placed the shard beneath my wristband. Nova looked toward the plane. You know, the audience thinks I want to steal you from Lyra, do you? She laughed softly. Part of me does. I turned toward her. No performance hid behind her expression. You make people feel as if the next choice matters, she said. Even when you think you know the ending. That is attractive, Nova. I am not asking to become your consolation prize. I would never. You might. People do cruel things when they are hurting and call them honesty. She moved closer, not touching, leaving the distance for me to close. If there were no Lyra, she said, would you kiss me? I considered lying. Nova would recognize it. Yes, her eyes softened. But there is a Lyra, she said. Yes, even when you hate her? I don't hate her. I know. Nova stood and brushed dust from her suit. That is why I am walking away before you make me important for the wrong reason. I caught her hand. Not to pull her back. To stop her, for 1 second. You are important. Then prove it by not using me to punish her. She squeezed my fingers and released them. The next morning, Nova was missing. Cassian announced that she had voluntarily extracted. Her audience believed him. I did not. The extraction tower showed no departure record. Her private camera feed ended inside a network maintenance tunnel beneath Sector 9. Cassian had taken her. He sent me a message containing 4 words. Bring Lyra to the core. The tournament's midpoint trial began an hour later. Contestants were ordered to descend into the underground city beneath Nox 9 and retrieve one of 3 command seals. The seals controlled the prediction engine. Cassian had finally placed the true objective inside a public trial. Orion, Mina, Lyra, and I entered through separate gates. Lyra caught up to me in the first tunnel. She wore the black ring I had returned on a chain around her neck. We looked at each other. Neither of us apologized. Nova did not extract, Lyra said. I know. Cassian wants me brought to the engine. I know that too. You intend to go alone? Yes. No. The familiar command sparked my anger. Lyra saw it. Her voice changed. May I come with you? It was the first time she asked. That mattered more than I wanted it to. Why? Because Nova was taken due to her connection with us. Because Cassian's engine concerns my family. And because if you enter alone, you will attempt something heroic and stupid. I'm not heroic. I have ample evidence of the second quality. I almost smiled. The tension between us shifted, but did not disappear. Your contract, she said. I registered your name after the engine predicted you would die. I stared at her. When? 6 months ago. My family gained temporary access to palimpsest. The engine generated thousands of survival outcomes. Your name appeared in every one. As a stabilizing candidate? As a casualty. The tunnel seemed colder. You knew I was going to enter Last Horizon. I knew a debt-sponsored contestant named Eli Vane would be selected and die before day 4. I did not know how. Why add me to the compatibility list? It granted House Soren legal authority to remove you from network custody. You could have warned me. My father blocked the extraction request. He believed saving one unknown contestant would reveal that we had accessed the engine, so you signed the contract. Yes. The forced bonding clause? Automatically included for every candidate. I submitted a private amendment forbidding its use. Mina didn't find an amendment. Because Cassian removed it. I wanted to believe her. That was precisely why I could not do so without proof. Why didn't you tell me when we met? I thought you might be working for the engine's owners. Then you knew things even palimpsest had not shown me. After the canyon? I should have told you. After the wreck? Yes. Instead, you continued testing whether touching me stabilized you. Shame entered her face. Yes. The admission hurt, but it also prevented another lie from growing between us. Lyra removed the chain from her neck. The black ring rested in her palm. I cannot undo that choice, she said. I can give you every record I have and accept whatever you decide after. She held out the ring. I did not take it. Not yet. Her fingers closed. She nodded once. The engine chamber lay beneath the center of the underground city. We found Nova suspended inside a transparent medical cylinder. Neural wires connected her camera implant to palimpsest. Mina arrived through the eastern tunnel and immediately began disabling the cylinder. Orion entered behind her carrying one of the command seals. Cassian's voice filled the chamber. All essential variables have arrived. The doors locked. Palimpsest activated. Light unfolded across the walls, displaying thousands of possible futures. In one, Orion won Last Horizon and married a noblewoman from the core. In another, Mina died, exposing Cassian. In hundreds, Lyra destroyed the chamber. In nearly all, I died. Nova opened her eyes inside the cylinder. Eli, she gasped. Don't let it read you. A pulse crossed the chamber. Memories tore through my mind. My old apartment. The novel on my tablet. My death. Then other memories appeared. Eli Vane as a child, Watching network recruiters visit the foster home. Lyra at 16, signing a contract with my name. Cassian standing before palimpsest as the engine selected a narrative capable of reshaping galactic politics. The machine was not merely predicting choices, it was provoking them. Every sabotage had been chosen to move us toward a preferred emotional outcome. My attraction to Lyra, her dependence on my touch, our conflict over the contract, Nova's interest, Orion's rivalry. Palimpsest had modeled all of it. A voice entered my thoughts. Desired outcome available. Li Vane survives. Lyra Soren bonds. Orion Cade wins. Cassian Vex falls. Accept correction? For one terrible moment, the offer looked perfect. Cassian would be exposed. I would live. Lyra would remain beside me. But the word bonds had no consent attached to it. I understood the engine's trap. It did not need Cassian to win. It needed us to accept a satisfying ending it controlled. I reached for Lyra, then stopped. Her eyes met mine. May I touch you? I asked. Even with the chamber collapsing around us, surprise crossed her face. Yes. I took her hand, not her wrist, not the place that controlled her power, her hand. Palimpsest is offering us a future, I said. I see it. Do you want it? No. The answer came without hesitation. In the displayed future, she stood beside me wearing the Soren marriage crest. Her expression was peaceful. Empty. Why? I asked. Because it does not contain a moment where I choose you. The engine increased pressure. Lyra's fingers tightened around mine. Orion drove the command seal into the central console. Mina, how do we shut it down? We don't. It is connected to the planetary core. Then disconnect the prediction layer. That requires an outcome the engine cannot model. Orion looked at me. You are the anomaly. No. It modeled my arrival. Mina scanned the data. Not fully. It can read your memories, but it cannot reconcile two Eli Vanes. Every prediction assumes one identity becomes dominant. The original Eli's fear existed beside my own determination. The engine expected me either to behave like the desperate boy who begged for safety, or like the reader who treated everyone as fictional. I had been both. I did not need to erase either. What choice does every model expect? I asked. Mina's display filled with probabilities. You save Lyra. Lyra turned toward me. Then don't. Cassian had built every trap around my refusal to watch her die again. The engine knew I would choose her. So Lyra released my hand. Save Nova, she said. The cylinder was overloading. If it ruptured, Nova's nervous system would burn out. At the same time, Palimpsest opened a gravity well beneath Lyra. I had seconds. In the novel, Orion had chosen points instead of Lyra. Now the engine expected me to choose Lyra instead of everyone else. I ran toward Nova. Behind me, gravity swallowed Lyra. I heard her body strike the floor. Every instinct screamed to turn around. I did not. Mina opened the cylinder. I caught Nova as she fell. Orion seized Lyra's arm before the gravity well pulled her into the core. The engine stuttered. Prediction. Conflict. I gave Nova to Mina and ran back. Orion was sliding toward the opening. I grabbed his harness. Lyra hung below him, one hand locked around his wrist. Pull! Orion shouted. The gravity well intensified. My injured ribs screamed. Nova crawled to the console and inserted her private storage shard. Millions of unedited recordings flooded Palimpsest. Choices Cassian had erased. Moments the network had cut. Variables the engine had classified as irrelevant. Lyra saving contestants who offered no strategic value. Orion surrendering points to rescue an injured rival. Mina repairing extraction beacons for people outside our alliance. Nova walking away from me rather than exploiting my pain. The machine had failed to understand every decision made without reward. Its projections fractured. I pulled Orion upward. He pulled Lyra. She reached the edge. I caught her forearm. For 1 second, her body hung above the collapsing engine. Our eyes met. In the original novel, no one came back for her. This time, 3 of us did. We dragged her onto the platform. Palimpsest's voice filled the chamber. No stable ending available. Good, I said. Nova hit the final command. The prediction layer collapsed. Darkness swallowed the chamber. When emergency power returned, Cassian stood behind Mina with a pulse pistol against her head. No projection. No simulation. The real man. You destroyed 20 years of work, he said. Mina remained very still. Orion raised his rifle. Cassian pressed the pistol closer. Drop it. Orion obeyed. Lyra began to lift one hand. Cassian smiled. The chamber is lined with gravitational feedback material. Use your ability. And the floor beneath Eli opens. A red circle illuminated beneath my boots. Lyra froze. Cassian looked at me. You wanted an unpredictable ending. Here it is. He ordered Nova to erase the recordings. She refused. He shot her in the shoulder. Nova fell. Mina caught her. Orion lunged for his rifle. A security field threw him against the wall. Cassian aimed at Lyra. Now we determine whether affection is merely another controllable variable. He fired. I moved in front of her. The pulse struck my chest. There was no pain at first, only pressure. Then my legs stopped supporting me. Lyra caught me before I hit the floor. Her face appeared above mine. The chamber shook. Eli, I'm fine. You are bleeding. I've had worse. That is a lie. Then my influence is improving. Her hands pressed against the wound. Blood moved between her fingers. Cassian approached. Give me the command seal. Lady Soren, and I will activate the medical unit. Lyra looked toward the seal beside Orion, then down at me. I knew what every version of her had been trained to do. Trade power for the life she wanted. Accept the cage if it protected someone else. I covered her blood-stained hand with mine. Don't. You will die. Maybe. I will not watch that happen. You once told me I couldn't ask you to let strangers die in your place. Her breath shook. You are not a stranger. No. The word held everything I had not said. Cassian extended his hand. The seal. Lyra bent over me. Her forehead touched mine. For one heartbeat, I thought she was saying goodbye. Then she whispered, "Do you trust me?" Not always. A broken laugh escaped her. Honest to the end. But now? Yes. Lyra kissed me. It was not soft. It was not cautious. Her hand slid behind my neck as her mouth met mine with all the fear, anger, and restraint she had carried since the canyon. I caught her waist, pulling her closer despite the pain in my chest. The chamber disappeared. There was only the warmth of her mouth, her breath breaking against mine, and the impossible realization that this was neither a tactic nor a compatibility test. Cassian had expected her to trade the seal. Instead, while his attention remained on us, Lyra removed the black ring from her chain and pressed it into my palm. The ring contained the private command frequency for her dreadnought. I activated it. Above Nox 9, the Soren fleet received our coordinates. Cassian heard the confirmation tone. His expression changed. Lyra pulled away just far enough to look into my eyes. For the record, she whispered, that was not tactical. I was going to ask. You ask too many questions. Cassian raised his weapon. Orion tackled him from the side. The pistol fired into the ceiling. Mina activated the security field in reverse, trapping Cassian against the floor. Nova, pale from blood loss, kept her private camera aimed at him. You are live, she said. Cassian looked at the camera. For the first time, he was afraid. The Soren fleet entered the atmosphere 11 minutes later. Network security surrendered. Medical officers removed the pulse fragment from my chest. Nova survived. Mina copied what remained of Palimpsest's records. Orion demanded the tournament continue under independent oversight, arguing that ending it would allow Cassian's sponsors to erase everything as an isolated scandal. Lyra wanted to take me off the planet immediately. I refused. We had exposed Cassian, not the people above him. The final trial would force them into public view. That decision created the last fracture between us. You were shot through the chest, Lyra said inside the medical shelter. I noticed. You cannot compete. The doctors cleared me. My doctors did not. Your doctors work for your family. They are the best in the galaxy. They also wrote the bonding contract. Her face hardened. They did not. Your house did. I am not my house. Then stop using its authority whenever I make a decision you dislike. Lyra stood beside my bed in her silver military coat. Without the disguise, she seemed farther away not because her identity had changed, but because the galaxy's expectations had returned around her. I can remove you from this planet, she said. The words were quiet, more threatening because we both knew they were true. You could. You would live. And I would never forgive you. Pain crossed her face. She turned away. I do not know how to protect you without becoming what you fear. Ask me what I want. You want to remain in a tournament designed to kill you. Yes. Then your answer is unacceptable. I swung my legs from the bed. Pain tore through my chest, but I stood. Lyra moved to support me. She stopped herself before touching me. What do you want? She asked. To finish this publicly. To expose the sponsors. To earn citizenship so no network can own my identity again. And after? I don't know. Her eyes lowered. That was the answer she feared. Not death. A future in which I survived and left. What do you want? I asked. Lyra took time to answer. You? The single word struck harder than any elaborate confession. Then she continued. But I do not yet know how to want you without trying to keep you. I stepped closer. Learn. What if I fail? Then I walk away. Her eyes shone with anger and hurt. I did not soften the consequence. Love without the freedom to leave was merely another contract. Lyra nodded. Then she opened the shelter door. You may finish the tournament. May? Her mouth tightened. You will finish the tournament, and I will attempt not to interfere unless you ask. That sounded painful. It was. I smiled. She almost did. Before leaving, she placed the silver Soren ring on the table beside me. Not on my finger. The fleet will respond if you choose to wear it, she said. No engagement clause, no bonding authority, no ownership. And if I don't, I will still come if you call my name. She left the choice with me. I wore the ring during the final trial. Cassian's sponsors revealed themselves on day 30. The Helix Council, a coalition of military houses and broadcast corporations, ordered the independent tribunal to arrest Lyra for illegal use of gravitational force. They offered Orion the official victory if he testified that she had endangered contestants. He refused on live broadcast. Mina released the manufacturing records connecting Helix to every sabotage device. Nova released the unedited footage. I entered the final arena carrying the only surviving command seal from Palimpsest. The Helix Council needed it destroyed. Their last weapon waited beneath the victory platform, a planetary defense machine disguised as the tournament's final predator. In the novel, Orion defeated it by striking the central core after a heroic battle. I knew the result. So did Helix. They had moved the core. The machine emerged from beneath the arena and attacked me first. Its front limb shattered my shield. I rolled beneath the second strike and fired at the location where the core should have been. Empty armor. The audience watched my perfect knowledge fail. Helix's representative addressed the arena. Eli Vane has manipulated this competition from the beginning. His supposed predictions came from stolen network files. Security officers surrounded the platform. The machine attacked again. Orion intercepted it with a magnetic spear. Mina transmitted a structural scan. No core in the torso, she said. It is remotely powered. From where? Signal is bouncing through the arena. Nova's voice entered the channel. The public projection towers. There were 12. Destroying them would end the broadcast and allow Helix to erase the evidence. The final trap was not physical. If we fought, we lost the audience. If we preserved the broadcast, the machine killed us. Lyra's dreadnought appeared above the arena. Helix activated a legal blockade, preventing her fleet from firing. She could intervene personally. Doing so would confirm their accusation that she used military power to control the tournament. The machine threw Orion across the platform. His spear broke. I looked toward Lyra's ship. Don't come down, I said through the ring. Her voice answered instantly. You are injured. I'm aware. I can stop it. And lose your fleet. I do not care. You will tomorrow. The machine targeted me. I ran toward the edge of the arena. Eli, trust me. You said that sentence never ends well. I learned it from you. I jumped. The audience screamed. Below the platform, the machine's power cables connected to 12 separate conduits. No central core. Mina understood. It distributes energy through the projection network. You cannot destroy it while the towers remain active. I don't need to destroy it. The original Eli's extraction beacon remained attached to my chest. I had carried it through every trial, despite knowing the network once disabled it. Palimpsest had predicted Eli would press it, while begging to be saved. Helix expected me never to trust it again. I activated the beacon. For 1 second, nothing happened. Then every extraction tower on Nox 9 responded simultaneously. Mina had repaired them. The emergency network seized priority from the projection towers. The defense machine lost power. Orion caught my harness before I fell into the lower machinery. He hauled me back onto the platform. That was your plan? It became my plan halfway down. I preferred you when you pretended to know everything. The disabled machine collapsed. The public broadcast continued through Nova's private network. Helix could not cut it. Mina released the final records. They proved the council had used palimpsest to manipulate elections, military appointments, celebrity marriages, and criminal trials across 12 systems. The arena audience turned toward the Helix representatives. Security officers lowered their weapons. Cassian, already in tribunal custody, transmitted an offer to testify in exchange for protection. It was not remorse, it was survival. But his evidence dismantled the last denials. The ranking system activated. Orion stood in second place. I stood in first. Then Cassian's pre-recorded accusation played across the screens. The footage showed every prediction I had made. The tribunal issued a warrant. The victory platform locked around my ankles, and the story returned to the moment where it had begun. Lyra descended from her dreadnought. She released me. She placed the Sorin ring on my finger. She declared that I was the man she had chosen to marry. Then Cassian revealed the compatibility contract. I stepped away from her. Only this time, I knew the truth behind it. Cassian's recording ended. The arena waited for Lyra's answer. She looked at the contract above us. Then she removed the ring from my finger. The audience gasped. My chest tightened. Lyra held the ring before the cameras. This object once granted my house authority over Eli Vane's body, she said. That authority has been revoked. She closed her fist. The ring collapsed into a silver thread. My family registered him without his consent. I signed the document. I believed doing so would save his life. Instead, I gave other people a language through which to own him. No one moved. Lyra turned toward me. The engagement I announced is not valid. Cassian's smile returned on the screens. Without the engagement, I had no immunity. Security officers raised their weapons again. Lyra did not threaten them. She did not summon her fleet. She stepped away from me. If Eli chooses to leave this platform, House Sorin will not claim him, command him, or speak on his behalf. The officers advanced. Every instinct in Lyra's body urged her to intervene. I saw the effort it took for her to remain still. She was giving me the freedom to be arrested, the freedom to reject her, the freedom to leave. That was the final proof no contract could provide. I faced the tribunal cameras. My advanced knowledge did not come from stolen trial files. It came from palimpsest, a prediction engine whose preferred outcomes reached my former world as a story. The audience reacted with disbelief. I expected it. So yes, I knew where shelters were hidden. I knew which contestants would betray us. I knew Lyra Sorin was supposed to die on day 3. I looked at Orion. He was supposed to leave her beneath Predator Canyon. He came back. At Mina. She was supposed to need a famous man to validate her evidence. She exposed Helix herself. At Nova, she was supposed to become romantic bait for the audience. She chose truth over attention and refused to let anyone use her feelings. Finally, I looked at Lyra. She was supposed to become a tragedy that made someone else important. Lyra's eyes held mine. I changed the story because I did not want to watch her die again. But somewhere along the way, Saving her became another excuse to decide what her life should mean. I held out my empty hands. Palimpsest failed because people are not predictable when they are free to choose without reward. If the tribunal wants proof, examine the engine records Mina Rook transmitted. If it wants a scapegoat, arrest me. The lead officer reached the platform. Orion stepped beside me, then Mina, then Nova, one arm still supported by a medical brace. Across the arena, rescued contestants stood. One after another, they entered the platform. Cassian's manufactured hero narrative collapsed in real time. The tribunal suspended the warrant. Not because Lyra claimed me, because the people Cassian had treated as disposable variables testified together. My victory score remained, but the network prize no longer mattered. Helix's seized accounts funded restitution for every contestant and family harmed by Last Horizon. Mina became the independent engineer responsible for dismantling Palimpsest. Nova built a broadcast cooperative that allowed contestants to own their footage. Orion rejected 3 military contracts and founded a rescue unit, though he continued claiming he had only joined the alliance temporarily. 3 weeks after the tribunal, I stood aboard Lyra's dreadnought watching Nox 9 shrink behind us. My citizenship certificate rested in my pocket. No debt sponsor, no network ownership, no predetermined death. The future beyond the window contained nothing I had read before. Lyra entered the observation deck. She wore a plain black uniform rather than her military coat. Without the cameras and title, she looked younger. Tired, too. She stopped several steps away. You leave for Callisto tomorrow, she said. The foster home needs repairs. I could send. She caught herself. I waited. Would you like assistance? She asked. Yes. Her shoulders relaxed slightly. Financial or structural? Both. Mina says the support system is older than Orion's ego. That is not possible. I said the same thing. A silence settled between us. Not uncomfortable. Unfinished. Lyra touched the place at her neck where she had once worn the black ring. I submitted my resignation from the compatibility program. I heard. My family objected. I assumed. My father believes you manipulated me. Did you crush his desk? Only one corner. Progress. She almost smiled. Then her expression became serious. The engagement announcement has been legally erased. You owe House Soren nothing. I know. You may leave tomorrow and never return. I know that too. Her hands curled at her sides. Lyra had faced predators, collapsing canyons, and a machine capable of reading possible futures. This frightened her more. I crossed the space between us. She did not move. When we met, I said, you gave me 3 rules. I remember, you broke all of them. So did you. You told me not to touch you without permission. Her breath changed. Yes. I stopped close enough to feel the warmth of her body. May I? Lyra looked at my mouth, then back at my eyes. Yes. I touched her face. No gravitational field activated. No cuff required stabilization. My hand simply rested against her cheek, because I wanted it there, and she had chosen to allow it. Lyra leaned into my palm. You also told me not to interfere with your decisions, I said. You violated that rule repeatedly. I'm about to do it again. How? You decided I was leaving tomorrow and never returning. Her eyes widened slightly. I said you could. I'm going to Callisto. After that, I'm coming back. Why? Because I dominated a survival show, destroyed a machine that predicted the galaxy, and somehow the most frightening part of my future is still asking whether the strongest heiress alive wants me when no cameras are watching. Lyra caught the front of my shirt. The gesture reminded me of the first day, when she had dragged me against a tree and placed a knife beneath my jaw. This time, she pulled me close for a different reason. I wanted you before the cameras, she said. I wanted you when I believed you were a spy. I wanted you when you infuriated me, distrusted me, and returned my ring. That sounds unhealthy. It probably is. We can work on it. Together? If you can stop kidnapping people during negotiations. I make no promises regarding Orion, I laughed. Lyra rose onto her toes and kissed me. This kiss was slower than the one inside Palimpsest. There was no weapon behind us, no contract, no audience, and no need to distract an enemy. Her fingers moved into my hair. My hand settled at her waist, and I waited long enough for her to pull me closer herself. She did. The stars beyond the observation window blurred. When we finally separated, her forehead remained against mine. Your heart rate is elevated, she whispered. So is yours. I am not losing control, neither am I. That was the difference. She did not need me to regulate her power. I did not need her to protect my life. We stayed because neither of us was required to. A soft tone sounded from my old extraction beacon. Mina had repaired it and returned it as a joke. For most of the tournament, the device had represented every false promise that someone stronger would rescue me if I surrendered. Now its screen displayed a new message. Destination required. Lyra looked at it. Where will you go? In the novel, every important ending had already been selected. Orion became a hero. Mina exposed the network. Lyra died. Eli Vane disappeared before anyone learned his name. I looked at the woman who had survived her ending. Then at the stars, no prediction engine controlled. Somewhere the story hasn't written yet. Lyra offered me her hand. This time, she did not take mine first. She waited. I chose it.